Most talented characters are driven by ambition. They want to be stronger, they want recognition, they want to prove themselves. But Frieren and Maomao are different. They don't seem particularly interested in being the best. Frieren spends decades collecting bizarre spells that most mages would consider useless. Maomao experiments with herbs and poisons with childlike excitement. To an outsider, it almost looks unserious, but they're simply curious. And strangely enough, that curiosity may be the real reason they become masters. How can someone work hard without losing themselves entirely to their craft, or be confined to a limited part of it? I think that's a question that plagues many people in today's society. The simple answer is curiosity, and I think that both Frieren and Maomao embody this. Neither is the typical "I need to be stronger and better because the world is depending on me" type of character. They aren't driven by ambition, but rather by an immense curiosity and thirst for their craft. But curiosity is often mistaken for a lack of seriousness, and yet it is a powerful tool for growth, because at its core, it isn't bound by the need to get to a specific destination. Ambition is the driving force for most people who achieve greatness. It propels many people forward, and in the world of the Apothecary Diaries and Frieren, it keeps many at the top. So what's wrong with ambition? The short answer? Nothing. Ambition is excellent at helping us reach a destination. Curiosity, on the other hand, is excellent at helping us discover new destinations that we never thought of. A great example of this is in the world of Frieren, particularly with the demons. Where the demons pursue outcomes, Frieren pursues understanding. Demons are highly skilled mages because they dedicate their lives to their specific crafts. They don't do it for enjoyment but for strength and status. And it works until they meet a mage like Frieren. On the surface, she doesn't seem like much, and when you follow her around in the show, we don't really see her train. She dedicates her time seeking out different spells and grimoires, but it turns out that her seemingly useless hobby is the greatest catalyst to her strength. Because she isn't driven by official study or ambition, she is very versatile in her magic and use of it. In other words, she can be creative when it comes to battles rather than rely on rigid rules and structures. That's one of the biggest reasons why she thrives. Maomao is extremely curious about all things pertaining medicine, herbs, and poisons, and that makes her an incredible apothecary. But what makes her stand out is her perception. She is highly observant and often notices things that would go unnoticed by most. She can smell plots and conspiracies from a mile away, and through observation and simple deductions, she can solve mysteries. Like when she figured out what was making the imperial heirs and Lady Li was sick, for example. It's her perception that makes her skill seem unmatched. One of the driving forces of Maomao's curiosity is seeing how helpless ignorance can make a person, and it makes her eager to grow her knowledge as much as possible. While there are geniuses whose talents she covets, she kind of doesn't spiral into obsessiveness or ambition. She isn't trying to become the greatest apothecary in the world, just a better apothecary than the one she was yesterday. Curiosity without direction is a recipe for disaster. That's where their mentors come in. And what's remarkable about both Flamma and Luomen is that they didn't try to contain or redirect their students' curiosity. They shaped it and kept it from becoming self-destructive. Flamma saw in Frieren a mage that would end the reign of the Demon King, but she also knew that though Frieren was a ruthless warrior, she still had a lot to learn and did her best to protect her. One of the ways she did this was by encouraging her to stay hidden until it was time to face the Demon King, rather than go off into the world seeking to slay every demon in sight. Even though she was extremely powerful, Flamma knew that there was power in obscurity. That's why she taught Frieren to suppress her mana. She wanted to protect Frieren from drawing attention of the demons, and at the same time, she was also instilling their battle strategy of fooling their demon opponents. To do this, Flamma taught Frieren to constantly suppress her mana to deceive the demons. Perfecting this skill to a point where it was second nature took time, but it was this very skill that allowed Frieren to walk the earth for centuries, collecting spells and studying magic without putting a target on her back. But Flamma had never intended for Frieren to be isolated forever, and the one fairly useless spell that magically conjures up a field of flowers was one of her greatest gifts to Frieren. For Frieren, it was a point of connection to her mistress and a way to remember her. And so she kept it safe like a treasure until the one time when she used it to cheer up a scared little boy. This simple act opened the door to a decade-long journey and a lifelong friendship. That simple, useless spell that Flamma gave her became the way Frieren got to connect with humanity, which is what Flamma wanted for her all along. While Flamma's gift to Frieren was connection, Luomen's gift to Maomao was something different, but equally important. Maomao was incessantly curious. The danger of her curiosity wasn't what she could do to others, but what she was willing to do to herself. She was literally her own guinea pig and constantly experimented on herself. Luomen met this curiosity with his gentle nature, slowly but firmly setting parameters for her to operate through. Knowing her tendencies to overthink and her zealousness to find answers to mysteries, he had to teach her to avoid speculating and to make sure she was speaking from facts rather than her own opinion. This was particularly important because they lived in a world full of superstition and limited scientific knowledge. This skill became very useful for her during her time in the Rear Palace, because it was literally a place where anything she said and did could potentially be used against her. Rather than teach Maomao to be cutthroat, he taught her to revere life. That way, her obsession with medicine could be a tool to preserve and heal. He was in many ways her moral compass, and some of his rules, such as not touching the dead, taught her to respect life, and this gave her incessant curiosity some direction. Both Flamma and Luomen knew their apprentices well enough to prepare them and even give them the tools to help them with challenges they would inevitably face in the future. Frieren never set out to become the greatest mage. Maomao never set out to become the greatest apothecary. Neither became exceptional despite their curiosity. Curiosity made them exceptional, and their mentors who shaped them understood something most people did not. Mastery isn't the reward for knowing everything. It's what happens when you never lose your desire to learn. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like as it really helps the channel reach more people who love these kinds of essays. I look forward to exploring more character journeys with you. Subscribe so you don't miss out on those episodes. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!